Come on, bring your feathery ass here.
Hello survivors and welcome to Survivor's Guild, part of the Mutant Fam Horror Consortium, a community of like-minded individuals creating content and building relationships by and for fans of the drive-in. Today, we are taking a look at the 1999 fantastic shark flick, Deep Blue Sea. But before we begin, make sure to hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any future videos. Now I hope you like ethically questionable people doing dubious experiments, turning ultimate killing machines into super ultimate killing machines, because this movie is getting spoiled. Deep Blue Sea, written by Duncan Kennedy and Donna Powers, and directed by Rennie Harlan, starring Thomas Jane, Saffron Burrows, Samuel L. Jackson, Jacqueline McKenzie, Michael Rappaport, Stellan Skarsgård, and LL Cool J. Deep Blue Sea is about a gaggle of scientists that are using a swarm of mako sharks to impress a corporate executive and use proteins from the shark's brain to reactivate human brain cells in Alzheimer's patients that have gone dormant. But in order to do this, they've created a swarm of super sharks. We open up to 4 cardboard cutouts hanging out in a boat in the middle of the ocean, listening to Good and Plenty by Divine. Big mistake, idiots. Sharks love Divine. When something bumps their boat, pouring wine into the water. Big mistake, idiots. Sharks love wine. The group plays a quick game of the Flores sharks before jumping into the water. Big mistake, idiots. Sharks love swimmers. And then they play a quick game of Mako Polo. Mako! But as the group prepares to lose the game, a different game than the one you just lost, Carter Blake shows up to save the day, and save the corporation a boatload of money from lawsuits. Cut over to this here helicopter and this here human female. One Dr. Susan McAllister. Fun fact, absolutely no relation to one Mr. Kevin McAllister of Home Alone fame. In fact, their last names aren't even spelled the same. Idiot. We are then introduced to the president of Chimera Pharmaceuticals, Mr. Russell Franklin, with his human-looking dog by his side, who is rather upset that a shark nearly killed some people. Keyword, nearly. As it turns out, he's invested a lot of money into this company, and he is very concerned about the market drop that they will see on Monday. Dr. McAllister uses emotion to convince him to come out to the facility to see what they are researching.
Give me till Monday morning, 48 hours. I'll give you results that'll skyrocket your stock price, or I'll help you pack the lab myself.
Guaranteeing him that once they show what they're working on, the stocks will skyrocket. Cut to Dr. McAllister and Russell flying to the facility. While in the plane, we get a little vague backstory for Russell about his heroism when he and his group got stuck in the Alps.
Things went bad.
But you saved all those people.
Not all.
But more on that later. They begin approaching the facility, which was an old World War II aquatic base that they bought on Russell's dime, which they repurposed for their research, and called Aquatica. Welcome back Carter watches as the crew introduce their newest addition to the shark swarm, a 12-foot Mako-looking tiger shark they caught. Cut back over to Dr. McAllister and Russell, who have boarded the facility, and she introduces him to Janice Higgins, the resident marine biologist, who will show him around. They watch Carter swimming in the shark pen, avoiding a damn sandworm from Beetlejuice. And just when it looks like this shark is going to add Carter to the meat bank, he grabs onto the beast and goes for a ride. But as it turns out, Carter, the resident dentist, was just grabbing the license plate from this monster's mouth. Janice then introduces Carter to Russell, but Carter hates it when corporate is in town.
Actually, they don't like the taste of us very much. They bite you. It's because they think you're a fat little seal or a rich soup.
She then introduces him to the test sharks, of which there are 3. We then find out that the majority of the crew is going to the mainland for the weekend, and Brenda lets us and them know that there is a storm coming. And Janice then points out to him Dr. Jim Whitlock.
It's Dr. Jim Whitlock, the most brilliant man ever.
He's pissing into the wind. How brilliant can he be?
You'll see.
And then we meet Tom Scoggins, who is talking to Carter about the shark that escaped the night before. Carter thinks Tom left the pen open, but Tom tells him that he locked it the same as every other night. Janice continues showing Russell around Aquatica.
There are 3 sub-levels. Sub-level 1 is living quarters, 2, wet lab and workshops,
and 3 engineering an airlocked wet entry.
And a little later, Russell makes some small talk with Carter, in which we find out that Carter did 2 years in prison for smuggling, and Russell, having invested a lot of money in the enterprise, has some concerns about it.
You do understand my concern, right?
Cut over to Preacher, the chef of Aquatica, and his foul-mouthed bird. Cut back over to Carter, who is swimming in the protective pathway in the pens as they introduce the mako-looking tiger shark to the swarm. Unfortunately, the swarm welcomes the addition with open jaws, pushing the swarm number back to 3. Dr. McAllister is then called to the surface for a birthday surprise, and Janice lets us know that we're in a horror movie.
By using a hormonal enhancer, we increased this female's forebrain to 5 times its normal size.
5 times the normal size, you say? Nothing suspicious about that at all.
I'm just amazed that we've come so far so fast without genetic tampering.
Genetic engineering to increase brain mass is in direct violation of the Harvard Genetics Compact, not to mention Chimera policy.
And Carter warns Dr. McAllister against bringing in the shark for testing ahead of schedule.
Do you like your job?
But Dr. McAllister lets him know that if the test doesn't go well, then they'll all be out of a job. The next day, as a nasty storm approaches, the crew get ready for their experiment. Carter gets ready to wrangle up a shark, and the scientists get ready to science. They enter this legit-looking OR. I'll explain what I mean much later. And get ready to not question a damn thing. Like...
How long have they been synchronized like this?
And...
Tell me I didn't see that. They recognized that gun.
It's impossible. Sharks do not swim backwards, they can't.
Just try to stay focused, people.
That's right. Just try to stay focused, people. Despite the odd behavior of the sharks, Carter is able to wrangle the shark and bring her in for the ill-fated test, while Dr. Whitlock drops some blasphemy.
What in God's creation?
Oh, not his. Ours.
They get through the protein extraction, and then it's time to test it on some cultured inactive brain neurons of an Alzheimer's patient.
Into cultured, inactive brain neurons of an Alzheimer's patient.
And it works!
Membrane integrity is improving.
They're firing!
2.
Time to light up the celebratory cigarette. Big mistake, idiots. Sharks love smoking. And when Dr. Whitlock offers the passed out shark a drag, the shark drags off his whole damn arm. And while Susan and Janice head over to help Jim, Carter heads over to Plan B. Plan B being blow a hole in this shark's head and get Dr. Whitlock's cigarette back. But Dr. Susan McAllister has wanted Dr. Whitlock to stop smoking for years, so she bloody slip and slides to hit the emergency release before Carter can kill Jim through enabling.
Are you insane?
The crew have Brenda call for a medical evac and bring Dr. Whitlock to the surface to get him on the helicopter. Now, besides the kill counter, we are also going to include the Carter slip counter, because it happens a bunch in this movie. And this is number 1. They get Dr. Whitlock secured to the winch, and the helicopter starts lifting him up. Carter then slips again. And when the winch malfunctions, it drops Dr. Whitlock into the water, which is definitely one of the top 3 places you wouldn't want to be. But Dr. Whitlock proves to be the best bait ever because within a few seconds they already have a bite. But instead of them reeling in their catch, they let it lead them a little bit. Unfortunately, it leads these helicopter coast guards right into our meat bank at deposits 1 through 3. And the ensuing explosion deposits Brenda at number 4. As the crew laments about how all that could have gone better, Carter tries to make contact with the dead.
Brenda? Are you there?
And Russell notices something out the window.
Somebody, please, tell me what that is.
The sharks, having 5 times the brain, also have 10 times the heart and wanted to bring Dr. Whitlock back to his friends. Unfortunately, that big window is made out of candy glass and begins to break, so the group needs to get out of there. When the glass gives way, it sends thousands upon thousands of gallons of seawater pouring into the room. And Carter makes the most of it by turning it into a slip and slide. Now is the best time to add Dr. Whitlock to our meat bank at deposit number 5, but we won't get confirmation until later. If there is wind in heaven, he'll be more than happy to piss into it. The group escapes the flooding room. Carter then slips again and looks for a way to the surface, but finds that a few of their options are flooded and decide their best bet is to head to the wet entry and take the sub up to the surface. Meanwhile, Preacher looks for his own way to the surface, but finds the stairs unaccommodating. As the group makes their way to the wet entry, they pass by the lab again, only to find that something is trying to bust through the door to get in. Ever the optimists, they turn it into a game of, guess what's on the other side of that door?
What the hell is that?
Lab equipment maybe banging around.
Think so?
Not a chance.
The group crosses the door quickly, dodging flying bolts, while Carter slides across the floor again. They get to the entrance to the maintenance ladder and work quickly to open it. But don't worry guys, you've got plenty of time, right Dr. Sadler?
Unless they figured out how to open doors.
And that they have. The group escapes into the lower level and Russell starts asking uncomfortable questions.
Is that a goddamn shark broke through that door?
I expect so.
You expect so? Am I the only asshole down here who thinks that a tad bit odd?
Dr. McAllister spills the beans being that these are GMO sharks, and as a side effect of enlarging their brains, the demon fish got smarter. Sounds about right. Unfortunately, their fellow scientists must not have been sciencing very hard, because this is a surprise to them, and we find out that human beings have been the enemy all along. Well, that and these damned super sharks.
So here's the riddle. What does an 8,000-pound Mako shark with a brain the size of a flathead V8 engine and no natural predators think about?
We cut back over to Preacher, who is wandering around the halls looking for his lost bird, when one of the sharks surprises him at the end of the hallway. Preacher makes his way into the kitchen and immediately arms himself. He then takes his opportunity to get to high ground and climbs up onto some shelving, not realizing that the sea demon has entered the arena. Preacher gets jump scared by his bird, and then jump scared by a shark.
Come on. Bring your feathery ass here.
And then regular scared by falling into the water. He swims over to the industrial-sized oven and climbs in, and while the shark tries to get him, the water goes all Moana and turns on the oven. Luckily, Preach recognizes the irony.
So I appreciate the irony, Lord. Cooked us in his own oven.
And he uses his axe to cut into the upper oven and then escape, before reminding this super shark about what it just did and then exploding it.
You ate my bird.
Meanwhile, while that's happening, the group made it to the wet entry only to find that the sub is out of commission and began working on Plan B, put on some wetsuits and swim to the surface. Tom Scoggins lets them know that there is no chance in hell that he would do that, and that there is no chance in hell they could outswim those sharks. But he also lets them know about a maintenance ladder that's hidden behind all this stored junk. But he explains that the shaft is airlocked, so if the surface level has been breached at all, it'll cause the wet pool to become unstable, which would cause millions of tons of water to flood in, potentially bringing down the whole facility, which Dr. McAllister is thoroughly opposed to.
Me? I'm opening this door and I'm climbing out of here.
The hell you are.
Hey, I don't work for you anymore, okay? I don't have to take your orders.
That's enough now from all of you.
And when an argument ensues, Russell calms them down by talking about how he and his team had to eat people when they were trapped in the Alps.
Swore that we said was the snow that killed the other two. Now you've seen how bad things can get and how quick they can get that way.
Comforting.
Enough is enough. I have had it with these
Sharks
on this
underwater science lab. Russell delivers a motivational speech.
So we're not going to fight anymore. We're going to pull together and we're going to find a way to get out of here. First, we're going to seal off this
before landing in our meat bank at deposit number 6. That is one inconsiderate shark. The group then turns their attention to the maintenance ladder door, but it turns out that the surface was breached because when they open that door, the wet pool becomes unstable. And begins flooding the room. The ladies start their way up while the guys hang back to get the door closed. Unfortunately, our crew is caught between a hot and a shark place when the surface above is still burning strong and the water below fills with shark when she busts through the door. Carter doubles back to open the door to level 2 so that the water has somewhere else to go. Carter slips. Unfortunately, when the weight of the water causes the foundation to buckle, the ladder breaks away from the wall, sending Janice into the shark space below. Ever the hero Carter does his best to save her, as does the shark, but unfortunately they didn't give these sharks arms, so instead it adds Janice to our meat bank at deposit number 7. But nature abhors a vacuum, so Preacher shows up to fill Janice's spot. The group comes up with a plan to reroute the emergency generators so that the bilge pumps can drain out one of the stairways. So Skoggs and Carter head back to the wet lab, while Dr. McAllister goes to retrieve her research and Preacher starts recording a video deathery.
And if this message finds you, then I did not survive, so this is my legacy. We will begin with the perfect omelet, which is made with 2 eggs, not 3.
Carter swims into the wet lab, only to get surprised by old Dr. Whitlock, who's just hanging around, before him and Skoggs go to turn on the emergency generators. Unfortunately, one of the sharks shows up and destroys the generator when it deposits Skoggs at number 8. Carter slips. Meanwhile, Dr. Susan is working on retrieving her research when she gets surprised by a cool shark toy. And then gets really surprised by a real shark. She climbs onto a shelf but drops her research and the shark takes it. She disrobes in an attempt to seduce the shark or to stand on her folded wetsuit to protect herself from what she's about to do. She pulls the cable out of an electrical box behind her and shoves it into the beast's mouth. Killing the shark, the electricity, and her research. The 3 remaining crew meet back up and initiate their last chance to get out of the rapidly sinking facility, armed with a diversion and a prayer.
Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, because I carry a big stick, and I'm the meanest motherfucker in the valley. 2 sharks down, Lord. 1 demon fish to go. Can I get an amen? Amen. I can't hear you.
Carter opens up the airlock and they each swim out of the room, heading to the surface and setting off their diversions. Unfortunately, this whole thing has caught the shark's attention, and it immediately realizes it doesn't prefer the taste of fire extinguishers and bright colors. So instead, it goes after Preach, but Preach goes all Reagan on the shark. Stabbing it in the face with his crucifix, before stabbing it in the eye. The shark immediately realizes it doesn't prefer the taste of getting stabbed in the face with a crucifix and lets Preach go. They bring Preach to safety and then put him down for a nap. Hey, you're supposed to be Night-Night. There, that's better. Carter and Susan survey the fading glory that was Aquatica, only to realize that the gate at the surface is now under the water, and the last shark is trying to break through it. Carter solves the riddle that Russell gave earlier in the movie, and then gives this movie a name.
Because that's what an 8,000-pound Mako thinks about. About freedom. About the deep blue sea.
Carter and Susan work quickly to rig up a device with exploding arrows, but when the shark dives beneath the surface, Susan realizes that they need some bait. She cuts her hand and jumps into the water to draw the shark to her, but when the shark starts heading her way, Susan is unable to get out of the water in time, and Carter is unable to get into the water in time, and Susan ends up as our 9th deposit in our meat bank. The shark turns its attention to Carter, and Carter avoids being eaten by riding on the shark's back, the last place that shark would think to look. And all this noise has woken Preacher up from his nap, and he puts 2 and 2 together and shoots the explosive arrow directly into the dorsal fin of the devilfish.
All right, Lord. Shoot it, Bree! This is for Scargins. Shoot it!
Unfortunately, it also goes through Carter's leg, pinning him to the shark. The shark makes its last go at the fence, breaking through to the other side before Preacher finally blows this shark to Kingdom Chum. Carter swims back to Preacher, and the two get comfortable as the rest of the cardboard crew show up thinking they still have jobs.
Here comes the next shift.
And the movie ends with the best shark movie inspired rap song performed by LL Cool J.
My hat is like a shark's fin. Deepest blues, my hat is like a shark's fin. Deepest blues, my hat is like a shark's fin.
So now, to find out, what are your chances of suffering survivor's guilt? This is where we take a look at our main characters and the death that surrounds them to find out what your chances are of surviving this movie. Starting our meat bank deposits with a boom, we have the 3 Coast Guardians crashing their helicopter into Aquatica as deposits 1 through 3. We have Brenda at number 4 when she gets hit with the explosion, followed by wind pisser Jim Whitlock, who either drowns or bleeds out off screen at number 5, followed by Russell motivational speaking right into number 6, Janice bobbing up and down into our 7th deposit, Scroggins twitching into our 8th spot, and wrapping up our deposits is our nature-breaking Dr. Susan McAllister at number 9. Now let's take a look at our survivors. We have Carter and Preacher, which means that out of a total of 11 characters, only 2 survived, which means that you only have an 18.18% chance of surviving this movie. Given those odds, how would these GMO sharks make sure that you never have to file for unemployment? Let me know in the comments below. And if this is your first time on my channel and you liked this video, go ahead and subscribe so that you don't miss out on any of my future videos. And as always, guys, thank you, and don't die.
This one's gonna be a hard one. No pun intended. Turtles movie. A sequel was all but inevitable, really.